Today I've got this Stihl FS160 brush cutter to get running. This is about 30 years old and it's never been serviced. Well, who doesn't service their brush cutter in about 30 years? Well, unfortunately that would be me. I've shared this with my father. He had a gardening business. I do mainly tree work, so he would keep it most of the time. If I had a job that needed it, I would borrow it back. But I kind of never even considered. He stored it. It never crossed my mind that it needed servicing. So it's not really a surprise. After about 30 years of hard use, it's packed up. As you can see, it's had a hard life. I'm actually amazed that it lasted as long as it has without any maintenance. The only thing that I can remember doing is when I'd grease my hedge cutters. When I'd grease the gearbox on the hedge cutters, I would put the remainder of the grease in the gearbox on the end of the brush cutter. So the gearbox has been greased. I don't think that could go 30 years. But yeah, after that amount of time, I'm not surprised it's packed up. So yeah, we'll have a look and see what's the problem. Now I've taken it outside, you can have a slightly better look at the the condition it's in. I mean, how on earth this thing's been running without any maintenance? So it's well overdue a service. Like I said, I shared it with my dad and I kind of forgot all about it. I use it when I need it. It's always worked. So it's kind of been neglected. I mean, I don't know how many hours this has done, but it's done that much. The harness is worn through the shaft there. You can see this thing really has been put through its paces. So all I've done so far is this thing was laid up over winter with last summer's petrol in it. So I've swapped the petrol. I'll put some ethanol free fuel in there and we'll give it a run, see if it can see if it will start. Right, it's got fresh gas. Choke's on. It's on start. Start, you bastard. Start, you bastard. Nah. Even shouting start, you bastard's not going to work on this one, I'm afraid. Pretty much everything is a Torx T27 on these. I think the spark plugs are 19, but we'll see when we get there. So we'll start stripping it down. It's had fuel. Had some coming through. Close the choke so no debris gets in. Yeah, I am disappointed in myself. Look at the state of it. That's probably the original spark plug. How many hundreds, if not into the thousands of hours? Man, that's bad. I'm pretty sure it's got spark, but let me just turn the lights off and test it. Make sure your ignition's on. Don't know how clearly you'll be able to see this, but yeah, it's definitely got spark. The coil's working fine. You just see this little bulb in here glowing, so that's all working right. I think it's probably the stale fuel in the carburetor, but we'll have to get into that. To remove the two 8mm nuts on there, I'm going to have to, I'll just release any pressure in the tank before I start. Pull the fuel line off. It's pretty stiff, that rubber, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to have to try and remove the impulse line. This rubber's so stiff. I don't know. What's going on there? Oh. That's not going to help. That rubber there is so stiff, there's no flex to it whatsoever. You can tell how old this is. I don't know if you can see it clearly if I can get the camera to focus, but this says still Hong Kong. Zama carb. Now you'll find they say Zama. They've got China written on. So this is, yeah, this must have been, I think we got this, what, late 90s? Mid 1990s. So this wasn't when ethanol was in the gas. This was when they actually added lead, and you could buy 4-star. So this is how old this machine is. This is when the 4-star petrol was available. Not good for your health, the 4-star, I suppose, but this new ethanol gas is absolutely terrible for small engine parts. We'll see what's going inside here. A little bit of advice: if you haven't got any spare diaphragms or gaskets, I'd be reluctant to open up a carburetor this old. I would try lightly spraying carb cleaner into the carb just to try and clean it out, because it's very unlikely gaskets and everything that are this old you'll get them to either come out or go back in without damage. Now I've got a whole load of parts up behind, so I'm going to take this apart. I think after about 30 years it probably deserves that, but I would not go pulling apart something that old unless you've got the parts available. I just try lightly cleaning it, cleaning what you can get to with carb cleaner, and see if you can get the thing to run. But I'm going to start taking this apart because I have a feeling there's some nasties on the inside of this thing. To get these apart, it's one screw at the top and then a couple at the bottom. A normal screwdriver will fit a flathead or a posi, but these are actually JIS. I don't know if you can see the tiny, I probably won't get it focused. These are technically JIS screws. There's a tiny little dot. So they're not Phillips. They're not posis. These are JIS, but I think these will come out without any trouble, just using a normal screwdriver. If you are using anything like this to clean your carb out, just remember one thing: no matter what hole you try to spray carb cleaner in, it will always come out at the one that is pointed at your eye. That is an absolute guarantee. So if you're going to do this, be very careful. Yeah, that's working all right. If you're going this far, it's worth pulling on the levers for these butterfly valves. Things were definitely built different back then. There is absolutely no play. When I mean play, I mean sort of lateral play. Pushing and pulling on these. There is none whatsoever. If you find that these have got a lot of play in them, just bin the carburetor. But none whatsoever. It's quite amazing. While I'm here, I'm going to take out the high and low jets. You always find the low jet, if they're not labelled, is the one nearest to the engine. So I'm going to wind these all the way in, count the number of turns, so I can set them. But then I'm going to see if I can just get a bit of carb cleaner to clear out the high and low jets in here. I'm going to lightly spray some carb cleaner into these two holes. Now what will happen if these are the high and low jets are blocked? You won't be able to see any coming out of these two holes and the high jet in there. I'm not going to stop the carb cleaner from escaping if it wants to go out anywhere else. I'm not doing this to put too much pressure down. I'm just going to use a little bit of spray. Yeah, that's fine, that's unblocked. Yeah, they're free, they're all clean. Quite often when you get into a carb, you'll find this little gauze, so you have the fuel coming in through here, and then it'll come into the pump diaphragm, which is this side of the carb, and this little gauze here, which feeds through to this little needle here, you quite often find that this gets blocked up. So you want to double check that this one's really actually nice and clean, so the fuel filter has been doing its job. But if you find that that's blocked up, that's one of your more sort of common problems, I suppose you'd call it. When you go to put it back, what you'll find is the pump diaphragm goes on first, and then the gasket. That's stuck on there, so I'm not going to try and remove that. When you get to the fuel metering side, I'm not even going to try and pull these apart. These are still quite servable. Here's the gasket, and then the diaphragm. So you just got to make sure you get it the right way around. Otherwise, this will not be set at the right height for metering your fuel. I'm going to swap the fuel hose. I'll clean the filter out so the filter's fine. I'm going to swap this rubber fuel hose. It's gone so hard, it's gone brittle. I wouldn't suggest using the real cheap nasty rubber. I get some decent quality. I tend to buy a small reel of it, then you can match up what you need, cut yourself a new one. Yeah, this real cheap nasty fuel rubber, it's constantly perishing, so get yourself a decent bit, hopefully it'll last another. Right, so I'm changing the fuel line, because like I said, it was perished. So what I've done is I've kept the old one to measure the length, because it's quite tight to get this through. I'm not going to cut the tube until it's on the machine. I can still measure it. I've just tapered that down. You can see I've just cut the last 2 inches and tapered it down. That way I can feed it through the hole for the inlet to the tank. I can grab it with the needle nose pliers, and then I can get the cable, the hose measured up, because it's very difficult to slide it through without a beveled edge. I'm sure there's a tool for it, but I haven't got one. Alright, it's very hard to actually pull this thing through, so I don't know if you can see, I have it attached to the end of these needle nose pliers. What I'm going to do is start twisting these pliers, and then that will start pulling. See, that will start pulling this fuel hose. Not sure you can see that. Right, there we go. Now I've got enough to grab hold of. I'm going to snip the end off flush and attach the. Well, because we're here, we've got one. I'll stick a new plug in. Same part number, just 30 years younger. BPM R7A. Interesting to see what it looks like when it comes out. Not too bad actually. That's not too bad, but we'll swap it while we're here. Quite surprised at that. I thought that was going to be minging. I'm going to take the exhaust off as well, because this is probably going to be a bit minging. Sometimes the spark arresters get clogged up. I'm not even sure this one has one, bearing in mind the age of it, but we'll take a look. Is there another screw? Right, I'll just bring you in to try and show you just how bad this is. I mean, I have to accept full responsibility for this, but look, it is thick on there. Look at the gunk on that. I don't even know how this pull cord's still going. It's holding by a thread. Right, to get the exhaust off, there's two hidden bolts. One is that one there, which I couldn't see because it was so covered in crud. And then if you see in here, it's difficult to bring you in, but there's one located just in there. I'll get that one out and we'll see what the exhaust looks like. It's nasty. This isn't a tool cleaning video or restoration video, but I'm going to clean some of this gunk out and I'm going to go and sit this in a bit of petrol, let it dry out. I can just feel by the weight of this is caked up on the inside. That's just minging. This is the point where you want to check what your piston and cylinder are like, but I've just turned it round. It's absolutely fine. That's good. I was a bit worried that the amount of dirt around the cooling fins would have caused this to overheat, but no, that is fine. That's good. I'll let that bathe in some petrol for a little bit before we give that a scrub off. This is a sort of more of a service video, not a restoration cleaning video, but these are air-cooled engines, so you've got to keep the cooling fins free of debris. I just thought I'd give it a little bit of a tidy out, keep things running a bit nicer. That's better, it's a lot neater. Give it half a chance. that's it done. Surprisingly, the only parts that I didn't even have to put them on, but I mean the old spark plug, it worked, but obviously I'm going to replace that while I'm at it. I was quite surprised the diaphragms in the carb didn't need replacing, but hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then obviously I've greased the end, so I've greased the gearbox in the end, but that's really all I've done. The rest was just clearing out all the gunk, and I've put some ethanol free fuel in it, so you know, if he's not going to use it instantly, that's not going to be a problem. He's got a hip operation soon, so I don't think it will be getting used for a few weeks, but I've put some ethanol free fuel in there for him, so if he doesn't use it for a little while, which I won't imagine he will be able to, the fuel won't go bad. I doubt I'll need it before he does. This was the only brush cutter that we had between us, but a couple of years ago I had a big clearance job, and I didn't really want to use this one, so I got I bought a much larger machine from the tool auctions. So yeah, it's pretty much my dad that just uses this now, but it's been a trusty old steed. So yeah, 30 years, and that's its first proper service. I think it must have had a new pull cord at some point. I've put a brand new one on it now. Wasn't believe the old one. I think that's probably all it's had. It didn't look like it's had a spark plug. It's had a little bit of grease in the gearbox, but that is really it. So amazing how it's gone that long without, obviously a 4-stroke would never go that long, because you'd either it'd burn oil or the oil would just deteriorate. So yeah, 2-stroke will do it, but 4-stroke wouldn't have lasted like that, not without an oil change anyway. I just think these things were made to last back then. You know, that many years and that little maintenance, you know, and that's my fault. That's completely on me. I just forgot all about it. You know, I've shared it with my dad. Yeah, and he just pulls on that rope, and if it goes, then he doesn't worry about it. So yeah, really, that's my fault. But anyway, here's what it is. And I think I should really mention the tuning the carburetor. Now, I have in the box got the tachograph, well, tachometer, should I say, for the tuning. But the thing, 1 minute you've got a, you know, if you look at it, 1 minute you've got a piece of line on the end. Well, if that line's 6 inches long, 8 inches long, 3 inches long, it's going to affect the engine RPMs. Also, because you can put a brush cutter on the end, a blade, that's going to affect the RPMs. So I've just sort of tuned it by ear to the lower, sort of what I'd call the lower upper limit, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to bother putting the old tachometer on it, because I'll tune it to the engine specs, and then it'll have a little bit more line on the end or a little bit less line on the end, and it throws it all out. So I've just played it safe, and I've tuned it to kind of the lower of the upper RPM limits. But other than that, hopefully that will keep it going for many more years to come. Anyway, cheers for watching, and hopefully part of that helps someone.